Hello, everybody, and welcome to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live July 26th, 2017. Is the summer flying by for those in the Northern Hemisphere, or is the winter dragging by for those in the Southern Hemisphere? It feels like the summer is flying by. Yeah, this is that weekly show where I talk about we chit-chat about the week's photo news, non-announcements, my recent travels, my future travels, gear I might have on this messy desk. If you follow me on Facebook, I posted a picture of it. It's gotten messy again. It's not my fault. Just stuff multiplies on its own. It happens. And I just don't have the wherewithal to deal with it. We critique your photos, answer your questions, pick some Instagram challenge standouts. We don't call them winners anymore. And that's pretty much it. I hope everybody's doing very well. I'm doing quite well. We haven't had a lot of shows this July, have we? I think this is our third, but we have a string of shows coming up. Next week I'm around. The week after that I'm around. I think the week after that I'm around. I think the week after that I'm around. I might have just said a whole month straight. So that's exciting to have that on the future horizon. There's travel, but it's all nicely compacted in the weekend spaces in between these trips. I'm definitely looking forward to being around a little bit more. Roy, you got crazy person notes from coding on your desk. So you still do paper? I often write down stuff on paper as well. I do find that tactile kind of like feedback and having that nice little list just very easy to work with. What else do I say at the beginning of the show? Is that everything? One of the things that's amazing is I started exactly on time, or at least according to my clock. And two, one of the reasons why is because everything worked. I just turned it on and just had to focus the camera and it just worked. Man, that's nice when that happens. And everybody can hear me. Caleb, that is not a talking fish. It is just a stuffed animal fish. My mom gave it to me many years ago as kind of like a joke present, I think. And I've just been bringing it along with me wherever I go. I'm struggling now to get the show notes up. Somewhere in here is a Chrome window. There it is. Yeah. All right. So let's get started. Thanks all for joining me if I didn't already say that. Week in review. This is the part of the show where we share a few things that we've done, a few things that are coming. I am back from Iceland, as I said. Let's talk a little bit about Iceland. It's a fantastic place. Now, I'll be 100% honest, and this might sound a little too privileged, but I wasn't super excited about going back to Iceland. I thought, I've been there. I wouldn't mind a little extra time at home, but, all right, so I'll go to Iceland again. And about 30 seconds after I landed, I thought to myself, what were you thinking, you idiot? This place is amazing. It just has the coolest landscapes. And, even though our route was almost identical to our route 2 years ago, the weather was different at all of the locations. And even when it was similar, it's just like to be able to go to such amazing places and also to do it twice. And so you're kind of step past that beyond like, oh my God, this waterfall is amazing, to, oh my God, this waterfall is amazing. How can I capture it in the best, I was going to say light, but the best angle, the best way. So it was great. And if you follow the McKays, we all are going back next year. There are 2 spots available still, I think, as of this time, or maybe 1. I heard now we might be down to just 1 spot. It's going to be another fantastic trip. We're going basically to the same places with a little bit of variation this year, and we're going to go counterclockwise around the island, the country, as opposed to usually we go clockwise. And there's going to be an extension. This is top secret still, but there's going to be extension a couple of days after the trip up to the fjord lands, the West Fjords. That's that kind of northwest section of Iceland. Iceland is kind of like a little round island like this, but then it's got this section up there that sticks off a bunch of fingers. And that has some iconic stuff. If you've seen pictures of Iceland, you've seen some of the pictures from up there. But tourist-wise, it's like less than 10% of the tourists that come to the island go to that area. So that's exciting to think about. And to go someplace new. It has grown tourist-wise. I mean, there are places that were a couple of years ago you know, people were around that this time were quite busy. Some places even mobbed. If you stay within the Reykjavik area or within like a half day's drive of that, you're going to run into a lot of tourists at all of the big locations during the prime time of day. If you get up earlier or stay out later, it'll be a little bit better. But you really have to travel further now to get away from the big groups. Let's see. Cost, it is an expensive country though. So I'm not talking about the trips, but to just go there yourself. You look at the cost of these trips, and I recognize that for some people, I personally wouldn't be able to afford them on what I make. But I also wouldn't be able to go to Iceland on what I make. If you look at what it costs to fly there, very reasonable. To rent a car, hotels, very unreasonable. The expense is high. The strength of their currency right now is up, and something like, you know, a simple cheese pizza, $20 to $30, actually, you know, and this is not a fancy pizza. This is like a simple cheese pizza. Or a dozen donuts, $35 US for a dozen Dunkin' Donuts. What is it here in the States? Does anybody know? I don't know. Angela's here. Hi, Angela. So glad you could join us. So $35 for a dozen Dunkin' Donuts, that's a little ridiculous. Hotels are quite expensive as well. But they are seeing a slight decrease in tourism about 18 months out or so. It's not, trips are not packed full because people are looking at these prices and saying, oh, maybe not. And it's very strong against the European currency as well right now, which is where a lot of their tourists come from. So we'll see. But photogenically, there are a few places as cool as Iceland. The landscape is just crazy. And I had a lot of fun there. You've seen most of my best pictures, so I'll dribble out a couple more of them, but that's mostly what I've done. I love, if I had to pick a favorite picture I took, it's probably the ice on the beach. Maybe. It's so hard to pick a favorite. Anyway, it is also, yes, Roger, I agree. No one needs Dunkin' Donuts. And you know, when we were there 2 years ago, there was a line around the block when we got there for the Dunkin' Donuts because it had just opened. And Steve Skurich, who you all know, and his wife had waited in that line and had actually gotten interviewed just because like on a fun thing to do. They were there a couple extra days. So they're like, let's get in the line for Dunkin' Donuts. Plus Steve loves donuts. And so they actually got interviewed in the paper like, oh, you know, tourists standing in the line for Dunkin' Donuts. Now there was Dunkin' Donuts at the airport. There was some at some of the gas stations. We actually saw a Krispy Kreme place too. Hey, should this be another group decision? Krispy Kreme versus Dunkin' Donuts. You know, donuts are kind of donuts in my book, and Dunkin' Donuts certainly aren't the best. Are Krispy Kreme that much better? I don't know. But maybe a cilantro flavored donut. Maybe a cilantro flavored donut wrapped up in a burrito. I think I'm onto something here. I'm going to quit this photography stuff and start a food truck that sells just that. I'm sure it'll do well. So what was my point? Talking about donuts, talking about photogenic. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to going back. Oh, drones, what I started to say. I mean, it's such a fantastic country for flying drones because you just get out into these open spaces and there's no flight paths, there's no restrictions, there's no power lines. I mean, the country does have power lines here and there, but most of these places you go and it's just like, woo! One downside though is the wind. It's a little windy at times, and you know, I still feel like I'm pretty new with my drone. So I just happened to be sitting right here because I flew it this morning. Look how pretty, and no dings, no scratches. I did drop it once. Actually, it kind of took off, kind of crashed once. Let's put it back here where it can watch us during the show. So I was a little bit of a sissy flying it in some conditions, extra windy conditions or something. We had 2 other people who came on the trip. This is the first that brought Mavics as well, and other participants. So at times there were 3 drones in the air. Now, before you grumble about that, these are places where there were no other tourists. We were the only ones. So, and again, I like to fly mine up high very quickly so you can't hear it, you don't see it, and it's going off and doing its job, unless I'm photographing the participant. So yeah, it was a fun place to fly. And when I get back here, I flew it this morning and I'm nervous about like neighbors knocking on the door being like, is that your drone? Get it out of my yard. But it was so cool and foggy this morning. If you saw that picture I posted on Facebook. Anyway. Oh, what did Caleb say that Angela has to talk to him about? Oh, Caleb said cilantro. All right. Oh, and Roy. Oh, Roy, you put this note in here. Should be all live shows until October 18th. Holy crumb, is that true? I won't miss a single Wednesday until October 18th. That's pretty exciting news. I'm not totally convinced that's true, but that's exciting. All right, the one bit of information that has gone out besides the Iceland teas is the hands-on review of the Canon T7i and the Nikon D5600. I put that up yesterday, I think, yesterday morning. Here's the Canon right now with the Sigma lens on it, and the Nikon's just out of reach. Both lovely cameras. I think everybody watching the show, you've moved beyond these cameras, but they're quite nice. The quality is very good. I do love that kind of approachable Canon interface and live view exposure simulation. I really like that. But on the other hand, I really like some of the extra features that the Nikon gives you. I like its smaller and lighter size with better battery life. And of course, did I say better image quality, especially as the light levels drop? Noticeable difference. But it's just not very much fun to use with that whole aperture block thing. You go to take a picture, you set it up, and you switch over to live view. And you're like, oh, you know what? I want to go to f8 here instead of f6.3. You can't do it unless you are out of movie mode. So then you got to back out of live view, change it, put live view back on. It's just frustrating. And the focus in live view on the Nikon is just so stinky. So stinky. But I wouldn't be upset if somebody gave it to me. I would learn to work around that. I'd probably spend less time in live view, which is kind of a bummer these days, because with an articulating screen, I really like shooting in live view for landscapes and any kind of slower moving subjects or still life type shots. It's just much easier to compose. It is much easier. I recommend this often when we go on these trips. If you've got an articulating screen, to set up at these different angles. And different angles give you a different perspective, and a different perspective can often make your pictures stand out from other people's pictures. So it's going to get warm in here. I can feel it. So articulating screen really kind of helps promote that idea of not setting up at eye level and getting that same kind of eye level 5 feet off the ground or 6 feet off the ground. I was going to say boring. That might be a little harsh, but kind of more standard picture that everybody does. So you all are just still saying hi to each other. And I think we might have more people than we've had in here for a while. There's no manly way to drink out of this, is there? But I'm a little thirsty when I talk so much. All right, what else? This is also part of the show where we do a Shutterstock update. And Roy has entered this experiment as well. He is up to 75 cents. He sold another Lansing, Michigan shot. I think, is that the very first one you said, Roy? That was, let me share my screen to show you. I'll just share the entire screen. Sure. There you go. I think that's this one right here, Lansing, Michigan State Supreme Court at sunset. I believe that was on our photo walk, Roy. So I think you owe me part of that 75 cents. You've added a bunch more images. These look great. And we'll be really interested to see how well they sell. I could see this little chickadee one in a hand doing well. Nice barn owl, mushroom and bokeh in the grass. You got some great pictures here. The hot air balloon on the blue sky. It's a very clean, very sweet shot. You just got some nice sunset pictures. Very nice. We're excited to see how this continues. Now, Roy, you had images up at someplace else, but are you really just focusing on Shutterstock now at this time? The one cocked on a 45, someone grabbed them all for the news, you think? Cocked on the 45. This one? The Capitol building? Yeah. So, I think, so I have now, where am I here? I'm now up to $134.70. That, if you remember my big jump, I was at like 30 bucks, I think. And then I jumped to 80 because I sold a $50 version of the Seattle Skyline. Oh man, I can't make it big for you. Well, you can see all my keywords. I'm only using 19 of 50 keywords. I should go in and add a few more keywords. Here, I can do, nope, can't do that either. That's great. Anyway, I've now sold 2 of these at 50. So that's the other big bump. And other than that, I'm selling about 1 a day. I should say I'm selling about 1 every 2 days. And through my referral links, which Roy has linked there in the show notes as well, if you want to sign up, you can use his or mine. You get 4 cents. So almost every day I'm earning either 4 cents or 25 cents. And now twice in the last, was it about 3 months, I've had sold 2 of these 50. So that's where my earnings are coming from. That's kind of exciting. I threw up Iceland pictures, and I threw up a bunch more Cuba pictures this morning. They haven't been approved yet, so we'll see how they do. But I'm also interested in trying to see if I could take a couple more shots similar to this one and get them up here, because obviously those seem to sell fairly well. And that's where Roy is seeing success too, kind of establishing shots or shots that, you know, showcase a local area. So that's, I think, mildly interesting. And, you know, 134 bucks, it's not bad. I don't, you know, again, that was that 1 image selling twice at $50 makes me pretty happy. If it did that once a month, I'd be quite happy. So we'll see. Ursula, have we done a post on how to get started at Shutterstock? I don't think we have. We should do a basic one. But basically, you sign up and start to upload images. And that's about it. I haven't asked for a payout yet. I think I can do that through PayPal, or they'll send you a check. I do think that is it a $30 or $50 level you have to hit before they'll send you or pay out. So yeah. And I did use the Photo Loo a little bit to help me remember to post here as well, but I don't know. It's just another one of those sites to have to remember to use. All right, let's talk a little bit about news, and let's start with some sad news, then some it could have been more exciting news, and then some how do we feel about it news. Is that big enough? Let's start with this article from DP Review. They're the first to publish this information, and other people have picked it up and have been talking about it. The Canon 6D Mark II. Its dynamic range falls behind modern APS-C cameras. Let's digest that for a second. We're talking about Canon's very newest, started shipping today, 6D Mark II, which is a full-frame camera offering dynamic range that falls behind modern crop sensor cameras. This is pretty disappointing. You know, my review of the 6D Mark II, I love the 6D. I think it's a lovely size and weight, and it gives you full frame image quality and performance in lower light. It is a fantastic kind of travel and landscape camera, and I was very excited for the 6D Mark II with an articulating screen, which it offers, and the dual pixel AF, which, as I've said about Canon, I love to spend time in live view. So to be able to have a nice articulating screen on a full frame camera from Canon all sounds good. You know, I was a little bummed that they didn't put 4K in there, but honestly, for most of the people buying the 6D Mark II, that's really a non-issue. So put that aside. But now this news, that here is this brand new camera with a brand new Canon sensor, not the 5D Mark IV sensor, and its dynamic range is back behind a crop sensor. All right, so is dynamic range the end all be all? I don't know why I'm showing you this right now, but you can kind of zoom in, or you could see ISO 100. How they're testing this really is taking an underexposed shot and then boosting the shadows, literally just dragging the exposure or the shadow slider in Lightroom. And look at this. If you drag it 3 stops to the right, here's what the noise level looks like on a Canon 6D Mark II at ISO 100. Again, you say, oh my God, that's noisy. Well, again, they are dragging the 3 stops to the right, overexposing this. And over here, we've got the Nikon D750. How old is the D750? Is it 3 freaking years old? I'm pretty sure it is. Look at that. It's got noise in it, but that's pretty darn clean. And we get a +4. Look at +4. Now that's a fairly extreme case. Or you might say, hey, that's a fairly extreme case. But you know what? There were multiple times in Iceland where a bracket really wouldn't work well for the scene. I didn't want to do a underexposed and middle exposed and an overexposed and sandwich them. I wanted one shot to get it right. And I know with a Sony, in most cases, I can severely underexpose so that the landscape looks like a shadowed silhouette. And then in Lightroom, I can bring that information up by just motioning, dragging the slider or the exposure to the right, and it preserves the highlights, but the detail comes out of the shadows. I'll show you a picture where I did it. Remind me when we get into the critique. And I got Lightroom open. And that's very handy to be able to do that. And here's a brand new camera from Canon that isn't performing at this level. Again, all right, so is dynamic range the end-all be-all is the question. No, but isn't this pretty disappointing that we have a brand new camera with a brand new sensor and it's not even performing at the level that crop sensor cameras that came out in the last year, or another full frame camera from a competition like the Nikon D750 that came out 3 years ago, September 11th, 2014. So we're a couple months away, 2 months, less than a month and a half away from 3 years old for that camera. It's pretty disappointing. It's like, all right, Canon, so what are you saying is so fantastic about this camera? What makes it competitive? Why should people who want a good travel and landscape camera, why should they buy this? Does this mean it's trash or that it's worthless or that you can't take good pictures with it? No, but it does mean in some conditions, when you spend this money, you're going to have a more challenging situation to shoot in than if you had spent the same or less money on a competition camera. So, it really, I think, decreases the value. And that plus what they do on the video side of things. Whew, man. Some people are saying we'll see a full frame mirrorless from Canon this year. I'd be shocked. I would be very surprised. I think next year is a very good chance, almost definite. I don't think we'll see it this year. And if we do see it this year, will it have a sensor like the 6D Mark II in it? I don't think Canon's going to be out of business anytime soon. But I feel like there's all these little things that are like, oh, Canon, you didn't do the video side of things. That's all right. Most of your target audience, we're pretty sure, yeah, you don't need video. But it's just a little too much. You put the things together and you're like, well, you got to apologize for this and that and that. I don't know. Let's move on and let's bash Nikon now, because Nikon has teased the D850, telling you it will exceed expectations and do 8K time lapses. All right, that's it. That's all we got from them so far. Now, 2 pictures have come out and have been leaked, but here's why. Why are they telling us that they're working on a camera but not giving us any specs? We don't know megapixels. We don't know FPS. We don't know if it'll have 4K. I'm sure it will. We don't know what its battery life will like, whether it uses a new battery. We don't know a lot of things about the D850, but they have confirmed that it will be called the D850. And that it will do 8K time lapses, and that it will exceed our expectations and not compromise on image quality or versatility. They mention hobbyists who capture landscapes. That says to me it's going to have a very high megapixel. Weddings, sports. So that says to me that it is going to have a fast focusing system and probably a very decent FPS, burst rate, and buffer. Commercial imagery and multimedia content creators. So again, that says to me that it's going to have 4K. Now we do have pictures of, these are leaked pictures because we don't really have any other than that one front one so far. Confirmed it does have an articulating screen, confirmed that it will have these nice little light up buttons, which the D500 has and is very nice. I love the D500. That is a fantastic camera. I wish it wasn't as weighed so much and wasn't big. That's me personally. I know a lot of people that put longer lenses on it very much like that weight and size because it balances that. So, but to me, this looks like a grown-up D500. It's probably going to have the D5's AF system, which is very impressive. Right now it's at what, 36 megapixels, the 800. So will it be a jump to 42 to match the A7R Mark II, or will they need to go higher? I think they're going to need to go higher. And what is this about 8K time lapse? Well, it's my A7R Mark II can do 8K time lapse because we're talking about still images, capturing a picture, and then making that into a video. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The A7R2 can't quite do that. Can't do that in camera, but I could, through the in-camera intervalometer, make it take a picture every X number of seconds and then process those in Lightroom. Which reminds me, Roy, I think you posted, I don't remember, about tweaking the coding a little bit in Lightroom's slideshow module to be able to make a time lapse. I need to go back and look at that. I thought that was very interesting. I like that because I used to pay for an app that would help me do that. But so if you take an individual still image from a 42 megapixel camera, that is basically 8K. So you string a bunch of those together in a video and you have an 8K video. So, you know, that's neat. That's pushing the envelope. It'll be curious to see how fast this camera is, because the D800, 810, they're not speed demons. Their selling point was 36 beautiful megapixels with an AA filter. And their quality is very nice, very good. We'll see. I'm curious to see how fast it is. Why, though? Why announce that they're working on a camera without any real specs other than teasing 8K time-lapse? Well, I think they wanted to hit that fact that it's their 100th anniversary. Officially, it was a day or 2 days ago. And two, to just kind of say, hey, we got a fantastic camera. It's coming. It must mean, though, I believe, that they aren't completely set in the specs. If they aren't set in the specs, why not share them? So I think that we're not going to see this now for a couple more months still, at least a month, probably two, hence why I said couple. And I have to imagine that they're kind of testing different variants of megapixels and probably buffer speed and buffer size, I think. If it's finalized, which it might be, but why not give us some more concrete specs? Daniel wants to know, will they match the 5DSR 50 megapixel sensor? I think so. I do think they'll go higher than that. If you look at, you know, I said 42 of the Sony, that's a tiny percentage increase, 36 to 42. So I think they'll need to jump to 50. But see, this is where we kind of go, oh, is it still on the screen? I'm sorry. Come back to me. This is, you know, this battle of, they want to bump it up to a higher megapixel, but if they really do want to make this camera something that sports photographers are interested in, then they might not want to bump that so high because that's going to fill buffers very quickly. I have seen people say it will use the SD card and the XQD card, which is capable of very fast write speeds. So it's that little walk in the tightrope, a little bit of a balance. So I don't know. Yeah, I think the light up buttons. Angela's excited about the light up buttons. It's really nice. It should not be, what's the word? You should not like say light up buttons. It's really a fantastic thing when you're shooting in the dark and you are not super comfortable with your camera, or even when you are, you sometimes accidentally push the wrong button. So to have this kind of little light up so you can see what you're doing with the camera in the dark without using a flashlight, it's very nice. Very nice. All right. And this is the one that I said we're going to be like, we've got another leak, this time from Adobe, that their Project Nimbus, which seems to be Lightroom in the cloud, is what people are calling it. We got this article from Petapixel. So they teased this at their Adobe Max conference in 2016. And then apparently there was, for a short period of time, they shared that Project Nimbus with a small group of Creative Cloud customers. What it seems like, as I said, is can I not make that bigger? Lightroom in the cloud. So you're in a browser, you're working in I'm going to say dumbed down version, but a simplified version of Lightroom. You're going to get 20 gigabytes of storage space. Oh, no, sorry. 1 terabyte of cloud storage, up from the 20 gigabytes currently offered. Do we really get 20 gigabytes in the Creative Cloud right now? That seems like a lot. I didn't know it was that much. I thought it was 2. And it's going to be enough to store your pictures. 1 terabyte is a good storage space for many of us. And it's going to have image search recognition, so you can search for trees. And here's kind of some of the interface. You can see that it's got a lot. I see luminaire, color, effects, details, optics, geometry. So very similar panels. They're all in French there if you are having trouble. Can I make that bigger and you can kind of see them? They get a little blurry. Oh, here they are better. So you can see that a lot of that is there. And so here's the question. Are we excited about this because we are asking for a cloud-based version of this? Or are we bummed because this might take away some power in development being focused on Lightroom, which needs to be faster, better, stronger, and we don't really care about a Lightroom in the cloud? We're all going to be doing this at some point in the future, but I'm not very excited about it in the next year or so. I think about myself traveling. I think about how crappy the internet is in a lot of the places we go. That is probably my biggest frustration, and it feels very first worldish, but man, when we travel and we're some in these hotels where I'm trying to get work done and I need the internet and it's just so slow and it keeps disconnecting, I could see trying to use something like Project Nimbus to be a complete nightmare and frustration. So no time in the future that I can imagine will I be able to use this all over the world. But when I'm at home and fast connection, it might be nice to really have more of my catalog stored online and accessible. I like that idea. So we'll see. Ursula, you're not excited. Jeff, what did I nail? Make the desktop version usable first, and the internet issues as well. Yeah. Related to that, they've updated the Lightroom mobile on Android and iOS, I believe. It seems to be much better. It has more tools. But I'm just so comfortable, and Snapseed is so easy. I wish I was more organized so that I had a section of my Lightroom catalog that would sync and I could do stuff with them. But I haven't got there. And again, like I said, when I travel so often, the internet is so crappy that it's just like, why bother? Why bother? Roger, I would love to go to the Oshkosh Air Show. That was like high on my dad's list for things he always wanted to do, and he always talked about it and always sounded so cool. But no, I'm not going. Roy, hopefully at some point your DSL will get faster. I really hope that will happen for you, because I could not live for a long period of time without my fast internet. I mean, I could, but I would have to go get a different job. Okay. So those were the stories we're going to talk about. I think that's good. If you want to have a little bit of more history of Nikon's, if you want to know a little bit more about Nikon's 100-year history, that's linked in the show notes down below. BenQ, makers of a good, solid monitor, have an Instagram competition you can enter. YouTube discontinues their video editor. Is that true? I'm bummed about that. Let me go see real quick. I saw that headline. YouTube does offer, once I've uploaded a video, I used to do this when used to do the live shows with Christina and I, and then we do the after show, which was just for the Patreon people, because it went live, and then I would use the editor to trim it out. So if I hit edit on my latest video, and yeah, the editor is gone. It used to be there, and now it's not. I'll have to go read that article, why they kill it and will it come back, because it was useful at times. This Nat Geographic cover was shot with a 10-year-old DSLR and iPhone flashlight. Stunning time lapse featuring the most extreme weather phenomenon of the American Midwest. But yeah, is it 8K? No, they didn't have the Nikon D850 yet. Sony's going to have a curved medium format sensor. And that's good. There's a couple more, but if you want to look at them, you should check it out. Now it's time for that part of the show where we say, photos from space. And The Guardian has a wrap-up short list of astronomy photographers of the year. That makes sense that the astronomy photographer of the year is in pictures. And I tell you, the very first one is beautiful. We are someplace where you've got snowy trees shooting almost straight up. And just the hint of these trees so nicely frames just this little bit of aurora, or it's a little bit more than a little bit of aurora. That's pretty beautiful. All right, Jeff, I'll try to keep that in mind. So what do I click on to see more of these pictures? Do I scroll? Oh yeah, I scroll. Okay. We got Mr. Big Dipper. Look at the Big Dipper here lined up so nicely with this cave entrance here in England, Switzerland. This is a panorama of 2 pictures, and each is a stack of another 2 pictures, one for the stars and another one for the foreground, but with no composing or time blending. Wait a second. How is it a stack without any composing or time blending? Somebody explain that to me. Did they simply just HDR it? Huh. Here's the supermoon. Did they say what? See, I would love to know what lens this was shot with. Obviously, quite a long one. It's pretty. Noctilucent clouds stretch across the Swedish sky, illuminating a motorcycle's ride home in this dramatic display. Noctilucent clouds are the highest clouds in Earth's atmosphere and form above 200,000 feet. Thought to be of ice crystals, the clouds occasionally become visible at twilight when the sun is below the horizon and illuminates them. That's very cool. That looks like something you'd see out of X-Men. I've watched some movies on the plane recently. Moonrise reflection. This is kind of cool modern art. I don't know. Would I be excited about this picture? I guess the very straight horizon, the very sharp delineation between sky and water. It's a neat picture, but I don't know. This one in Russia. Illuminated by street lamps, the trees glow a vivid pink, forming a contrasting frame for nature's greatest light show. I like this one a lot. That one in the cave one at the top, even though I can't figure out how they did it, saying they took 2 shots, but they didn't compose or time blend them. That's cool. Ooh, Lofton Islands in Norway. Wow, that's cool. The image is stacked from 6 different exposures to combat high ISO and thermal noise in the foreground. Okay. My interest is starting to wane, but these are all Skadsken Beach. Where is that? He's in Germany, but let's look and see where it says Skadsken is. Okay, to go for some stuff. Oh, this one's got the moon, a little bit of aurora borealis, a tree. It's very nice. Crescent moon. Moon is crescent right now here in the U.S. as well. I guess wherever you can see it. Nice. Those are some beautiful pictures. Very nice. I would love to have a few of those pictures. I'm excited for, in a couple weeks, Joshua Tree for night sky photography, hoping to get some really nice Milky Way shots. And as we've talked about, the eclipse, so I won't be seeing the total solar eclipse. I'll only being partial it. There was a cool, I'll find the link for it. There's a cool website where you can put in your zip code and it will tell you at what time the eclipse is peak for you and what percentage the sun will be eclipsed. And from Joshua Tree, it's 68%. If I drive a little bit further, or 62%, I think. If I drive a little bit further north, like a half an hour north, it got to 68%. So we might try to drive a little bit further north for that kind of, it's around a 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time showing. We'll see. I'll see. Roger, you saw some awesome noctilucent clouds during winter in Antarctica. Jamie, who can move into your basement? The mic's right here. And there's the guy, Daniel, asking for him. He's cute. All right. But see, he gets wiggly, doesn't he? Experiencing some turbulence in space. What do we talk about now? Now we talk about our, from last week. Look at this little guy. Japan made a floating camera for space, and it looks adorable. Oh my gosh, it does. Look at this thing. It looks like Wally. No, it looks like Eve from Wally. It's called the Int Ball. This cute floating orb is an astronaut's new best friend. Int Ball, made by the Japanese space agency JAXA, moves autonomously around the International Space Station. JAXA people on the ground can remotely drive the little ball, and it captures light. How does it remove? Is it got little air puffs in there? Oh, I bet it does. It's got little fans like a little drone. How does it move? The cube-shaped brain converses with 12 fans positioned near the surface of the robot, which adjusts its position in zero gravity. A navigation camera looks out for pink 3D target markers, which serve as reference points on board the ship. The recording camera, meanwhile, is located between the two eyes so that astronauts can easily identify what it's looking at. That is cool. I want one. It's not really the same thing, but as I was flying my drone this morning, I thought, man, I love this thing. It's just amazing to me that this day and age, I heard that foghorn this morning, and I was like, why is he blowing that foghorn so much? And I could see just a hint of fog over towards the water. So got the drone up in, a minute. And then there is this stable hovering platform shooting 4K video that just launched from my front door. I was still kind of in my pajamas, and I could just fly it half mile away and have it just hover there for 20 minutes. Don't need to answer that. And so it's very cool. And now in zero gravity, that thing it can just float around forever, probably. I wonder if it can get itself back to a little recharge station. But what do we have in a year or 2 years from these drones, from things like the Spark that are just so small and portable? Okay. Who are jerks? Man, you guys are talking about stuff I don't know. I feel left out. Charlene has to go in a half hour, so we got to wrap this up. Okay, let's talk about our Instagram challenges. This week was liquid. No, last week was liquid. This week, well, technically last week. Never mind. It's vehicles. Vehicles is what I meant to say. And we had some fantastic vehicle shots. Let's share. Where are they? Right here. Let's share. This is fun. Let's share this window of vehicles right there. Now I can take a drink since Jeffrey can't see me. We had some fun shots. Maybe it is the Tour de France lover in me, but I had a particular affinity to the bicycle shots this week. Irwin's, not a super strong transportation shot, but I love the framing and balance of the shot. We've got this road leading to the strong dark element, but we have our subject in the foreground kind of balancing this along with all of this little bit of negative space over here on a bicycle just going down this dirt road. It looks like a lovely summer evening, fun thing to do, very Dutch thing to do, right, Erwin? I think you're Dutch, Netherlands, Holland, yes. So I love it. I think it's processed nicely. I think you had to brighten them a bit because they were a little bit more silhouette-y, probably like this tree, but not too much because as that light level drops, it gets a little bit more even. I really liked it. Roy, I know you picked Kyle's or just Kyle's as one of the standouts. Your vehicles can be hot air balloons. Very clean, sharp, colorful shot here. What'd you say about it, Roy? Because I don't know what I said. It's a nice shot, and I like the cloud trailing at the bottom. The cloud does offer a nice kind of little end kind of sets the feeling of place here. And I like that none of them are going into the cloud. I almost wonder if it would be worth taking that guy out. So you have little one, big one, that intersection, but it does offer some depth as well. What do you all think? Should you take this one out that's intersecting the big balloon, or should you leave it in? Let me know. Oh, Trelina, you already said, I wish you'd remove that one balloon. Had you heard me say that? And then Daniel, this is a fantastic shot. Roy, I'm pretty sure you picked this one as well. Using a faster speed to freeze the action works well as it goes up into the sky. Yeah, I want to point this out. I don't know if did I pick this one as well? No, I picked this one. Hey, why does it still say Daniel? This isn't Daniel's shot. This one I liked, particularly because the shutter speed was just right. I mean, there are several reasons I like this one, but just enough to give a little bit of motion to the props. I don't know exactly what shutter speed that was. Let's ask him. Great shot. One of my picks for the week. What was the shutter speed? I like that. I think a lot of times we're shooting at high enough shutter speeds to really freeze the plane, and the prop ends up being completely frozen with no motion blur at all. And it can look a little funny. It looks like the plane's just kind of sitting there in the sky. But this angle doesn't really bother me because it's from the side. We wouldn't see much motion blur anyway. Very bright, cool clouds. It's a cool shot. And then, Roy, you picked this one. You said going for a slower panning shot while moving is a bit challenging, but gets great bokeh. Oops, wrong. Here we go. This is interesting because we are so kind of motion blurred up in the front, and then it gets a little bit sharper and cleaner in the background. I might have worked on this a little bit in Photoshop and softened the background to match as well, or cropped in a little bit tighter to really emphasize this motion here. I think this is great, and the car is so sharp. Very cool. Nice job, Blue KTCS. And then, as I said, maybe it's the recent Tour de France. Maybe it's the fact that I like bicycles, but I picked 2 bicycle shots now, and this one, simple but perfectly framed, just riding away from us. We can't see their face, so there's a little bit of mystery. Are they enjoying themselves? Are they running from their scary father with a camera or biking away? I don't think so. But just framed inside this space so nicely, a little bit of motion blur, it feels like, down here and up here to give a sense of motion to us as well, I feel like. So, love it. Great shot. Great shot. One of my picks of the week. Thanks for, oops. I should probably do this when you aren't all watching me. Participating. Right. I think that's it. So those are our picks of the week. Roy, thanks for picking. And everybody who submitted, thanks for submitting. As I said, there's a lot of cool ones in here. A lot of planes, rough, burnt up car. Ooh, trains. I don't miss that one before. It's a cool train. This is cool. I like that one as well. So a lot of great shots in here. That's not a vehicle. Maybe a vehicle for fleas. I don't know. Okay. But what do we got next week? Next week, it's nature. Very kind of open. Let's see your best nature shots. Throw them up there and tag them PRTV_nature. Good? Questions? Daniel, you're around 1/800th or so. Oh, both are yours? Both are your accounts? Oh, that makes sense. Daniel, are you trying to cheat? So around 1/800th or so. Okay. Yep. Now let's talk. Oh, I was clicking. You guys couldn't see it. Let's talk a little bit about, well, we got the discussion, disappointment after disappointment. What is wrong with Canon? I think I shared enough of that. We don't have to really go into it. 4 simple but yet effective ways to get over your creative block. I think, let's just run through this real quick, and then I want to run through 2 discussion pieces briefly here. 4 simple yet effective ways to get over creative block. And I'm going to skip down to the summary of this and just kind of walk you through them. Is this it here? Yeah. A very short summary. Do one or all of these things. Acknowledge its temporary nature. Sometimes I think you should just kind of embrace. So, you know, I'm a little bit blocked. Take a little bit of time off. Don't really put a lot of pressure on yourself, and say, you know, this is what I am. This is what's happening to me right now. But I know that it's temporary, and I'll get my mojo back. Get to know different genres. This is fantastic. If you consider yourself a landscape photographer, and you feel like you're not creating great landscapes, stop and try something else, because stepping out of your comfort zone is going to allow you to kind of see things in a different light. I'm always hesitant to use that word light when we're talking about photography stuff, because it informs so much of our pictures. But then you can be like, oh man, I took this shot where I shot my subject at a very shallow depth of field. I hadn't really done that much with landscape photography. And then walk into the forest or walk out into the beautiful landscape with a different mindset about how you may approach the scene. Start a small project. Emphasis on small. Give yourself something that feels very manageable and easy to tackle. Like, say, for the next week, I'm going to take 2 pictures, or I'm going to take a picture every day for the next 5 days. Something that feels like you could do it, and just kind of gets the camera in your hand and gives you a purpose again. And the last one is become a student. Watch some YouTube videos, absorb information, put yourself back into full-on learning mode. So I thought that, that's just the kind of the summary of it. And I thought that was pretty good. Now, the other one, 10 photography bad habits for you to conquer. We're going to just kind of walk through these very quickly as well. Batteries not charged and ready. These are a little bit more practical than the getting over writer's block thing. Man, charge your batteries every night. Make sure they're ready to go, or that you have a spare charge. But even that, the reason I want to go through these is almost every one of these happened to me in Iceland. Either I started the morning, and after a few minutes of filming, I had a blinking red battery. And yeah, I have plenty of spares and made sure those were always charged. But it's a little bit of frustration. You get your gear out, you get over to your scene, you get ready to shoot, and then you're like, oh, I got to get back to my bag, got to switch the battery, and hope that you didn't miss the moment that you originally charged. So make sure those batteries are charged. I really don't know how that happened to me a couple of times. Memory card's not empty and ready to use. Let's reenact the scene. Let's see, do I have? I don't have. I have the drone. So I get the drone up in the air, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. The drone's in the air, and I'm flying it around, and I'm getting the footage. And I wanted to get some fantastic footage. The bus drove us way out to these cliffs. You've seen probably the picture. You might have seen just a brief glimpse of it in the Iceland teaser video. And I want the bus basically went off-roading for us. And I wanted to get some footage of the bus making its way back to the road, driving through a stream, driving over some massive potholes, and what do you call those other things with the water in them? Puddles? Mud puddles? Is that what you call them when they're on the road? Puddles? Yeah, just puddles. So this is the bus. Here's the drone. Bus is driving. It's awesome. We get to the stream, and my memory card is full. Right, like honestly, 5 seconds before we enter the stream, my memory card is full. And I can't make the bus stop with everybody on it and stuff. So even when you're flying around an exciting drone, make sure that you know how much space is left on your cards, and that at the appropriate times, you wipe them and have them ready to go. No cleaning routine for your gear. This one has bitten me too. Not on this Iceland trip. I was much more careful, but I've got tons of gorgeous footage from Yellowstone winter trip that has a hair. This is video footage that has a hair in the middle of the footage. So have a cleaning routine, and also just be checking to see. Don't be shooting all day long thinking everything is wonderful. Not checking your camera settings. It just happens. Sometimes you say, oh, for the last 5 shots, I realized I've been at ISO 2000 and I really didn't need to be. That just takes from practice. Number 5 is underestimating travel allowance time. This one is huge. It's bitten me before as well. There are periods of time that you want to be ready to shoot because the light is fantastic or beautiful. And if it's a little bit further away, you don't take the time to say, oh, that's going to be a 30-minute drive, plus traffic, plus a coffee stop, plus getting out of the car, walking the distance, and all of a sudden you've realized that you've left yourself, as you arrive on the scene, about 5 minutes of photography time. Always give yourself extra time. And one of the things I think it's tough is a lot of us travel with non-photographers often. And so we feel bad. I feel bad about making people stand around for extra time. That's one of the reasons why these McKay trips, or any photo trip that you can go on, is fantastic, because that is the focus. So we go to a spot and we stay for the period of time it takes to get the shots most of the time. So allow yourself plenty of travel time. Not stopping, number 6, not stopping when you see a shot. It has been my rule more often than not lately. If I see a shot, or if I have an opportunity to shoot the stars or something, to do it. Don't say I'll do it tomorrow. Don't say I'll do it when I come back. Because if you see that shot now and it's beautiful, if it caught your eye, there's a reason it caught your eye. And if it caught your eye, all of those reasons it caught your eye, they might not be there in a minute or 5 minutes or tomorrow. So take the time. Not protecting your gear properly, not using a tripod. Yeah, I don't feel strong about that one. Getting caught up in the excitement, forgetting to take time to plan. So I think they're starting to stretch these out a little bit. But number 10, don't be afraid to hit delete. That's something I've talked about before, more and more often now. I'd actually take this a step back and say, don't be afraid to not take a picture sometimes. I am more critical these days of my work, and there are times where I'll step up to a scene, and before I might have shot this and that and this and that and this and that, look at it critically and think about, is this really going to be a great photo? Is this going to be one of my stronger photos? And don't feel like you have to capture everything around you. Focus on what you really think is going to make a strong photo and capture that. And then when you get back to your computer and you got all those crappy ones, don't be afraid to delete. Okay. Angela, you've never been in a hot air balloon? It is noisier than you might expect. I'll say that. It's pretty cool. It feels incredibly stable. It wasn't scary at all. And it's a pretty neat experience. So I would try it. It's a little, where I did it, I felt pretty safe because there was just nothing around us that we could run into that I felt was dangerous. But you get these hot air balloons around here, you get power lines, you get buildings, kind of scary. But it's pretty cool. Okay. Are we good there? I think we're good there. And Angela wants to know where Pixel is. Aw, Pixel, for those who don't know. Pixel is a great kitty cat that sits up on my shelf. Angela, you probably haven't watched a recent video of mine. This Pixel sits, there's Pixel. Look, we can kind of make it seem like Pixel's on my shoulder. Okay. All right, photo critiquing and show photo with dynamic range from the Sony trip. Thank you, Roy. You do good work. All right, let's share my screen. We're going to get into the critiquing time and the time where I share a picture with huge dynamic range. So I have to do my entire screen. Do you see this nice, look at this nice note from Roy so I wouldn't forget. And here we are in Iceland. And it's loading, that hard drive is loading. So give me just a minute. Ursula, you once drove by a scene where Amish women were walking to the ocean in Gulfport. You should have stopped. I know. I'm haunted by pictures I should have stopped at too. But look at this picture of Lana first. I was testing out the GoPro. Oh, yeah. I tested the GoPro on this trip. Oh, you can't see it. I was holding it up, but I don't know. Okay. Somewhere in here, I have a picture to show you, I think, with a huge dynamic range. It's going to load a little slow because of, oh, it's before this. It's in this group here because these were just moved over to this computer. Here we go. So this was a selfie picture. I wanted to preserve the detail in the clouds, and you can see that the landscape is so dark. But I know that my Sony sensor and Nikon sensors and Canon 5D Mark IV to some degree as well, that I can bring the exposure to the right, I can bring the shadows to the right and look In this case, my shoulder's partly there too. But look, all that detail's there. And there's very, very little noise. There's some noise, but it's still loading slowly, I think. Did it load all the way? Yeah. So it's really not bad. And I actually, so I took a couple of shots, and then there's this picture of me sitting there. This is Gullfoss waterfall, which is pretty amazing. I don't like any of my pictures from Gullfoss though, because I don't feel like they really show the magnitude of this place, or you get the mist, which just builds up for a longer exposure. So the only picture I've shown so far is the one off to the side of the little stream. I have some footage from here, and like this, I think this is a neat picture, but there is no sense of scale here, which bothers me. So I don't know. I don't really like it. Maybe might like it as a black and white. I might, oh, look at that. I might like that as a black and white. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. But I just wanted to show. So I brought that, those details way up. Here's another example. And you can just punch that exposure up, shadows up, and it just all comes to life in there. All right, let's critique a few photos. All right, first photo up is Kevin. Is this from a Hawaii trip? I think this is Hawaii. You got lots of little chunks of lava on the beach. You've got a different watermark on here than you've usually used before. This is a decent picture. I think what you're showing here is kind of the lava, and I like the white, black, and then brownish, and then bluish. I don't love that it feels a little angled. It's kind of cutting across. I would like it to feel a little bit more. Yeah, see, we can't do that though. So what we can do is use transform guided. And I would draw a guide through here and a guide through here and there. See how that makes it feel a little straighter? And let's see what happens if we do one more. It's going to yell at us. Yeah, no, it won't do one. You can only do 2 horizontal. And so now we say constrained to crop. And so this feels a much more straight on shot. There's something about it. It might be a little bit too down to the left now. Like so. And then I also, there's just a little bit of this kind of foreground, not much going on here. I might crop in a little bit more. Let's go to 16:9. Yeah, here we go. And maybe start somewhere around here, but then I might get rid of this one black one right here that's just cut off a little bit. Replace it with a white one from somewhere else over here. And maybe brighten the water up a little bit as well. Just to make things a little bit more interesting. Well, maybe darker look better. I don't know. Yeah. Nice. All right. Stan. What's happening here, Stan? I think we've got, it's a little confusing because we've got 2 very nicely dressed ladies, maybe like prom or something like that. But then that looks like a man's suit right there. Yeah, 2 men's jackets. This is a prom picture, Centennial Park. We got this guy kind of walking up here. We don't need him. He doesn't add anything for me. But let's keep the, I don't want to cut off the top of that building. I think that building is cool. I also think that this right here is a tiny bit straighter. I'm looking at this pole as a use. So we've got these ladies. We've got this cool building in the background. I might bring the shadows up just a little bit. I want just a little bit more information in some of those trees back there. Bring the highlights down a little bit so those clouds don't look too bright. But, inch the whites over. You can hold down, shift, and double click on the whites, double click on the blacks. That will scoot them just to kiss the left and the right, which is what you want. And then I think this is a nicer picture. A little bugged by the triangle. We talked about this before. Stan, you might not have heard this. But triangles can really kind of catch and draw the eye away. And this one in this bottom corner here, let's do it on black for a second. It's just kind of grabbing the eye. I probably would pop this into Lightroom, sorry, Photoshop and content aware fill it. It should just fill it in with nice grass that looks good. Otherwise, no, I think this is a nice shot. Just not quite sure. You could also probably take this stuff out here because this is confusing. And this inside out jacket, I'm sorry, this looks like a pair of boobs to me. Or like a funky bra with like a weird shirt underneath or something. It's catching my eye in a weird way. And it's confusing to me because I don't know how it plays into the story here. So we'll see. All right. Jamie. This is Yawa. This is from one of our trips to Animals of Montana. And we got some good framing here. I like that. Here's what I'm going to do, though. First thing I'm going to do is crop in a little bit, get rid of just this stick against the white. That's bothering me. And we don't need quite as much from over here on the left either, I think. And now see how we draw in, and we're kind of really getting Yawa to be on that third spot. Get a little bit closer. Frame that a little bit nicer. And that's good. So then we could just kind of clone out. This will be very easy to clone out. Lightroom could even handle that. And I might spend a little bit of time working this out as well, a triangle. So anytime you can avoid, we don't want to put another cat hair up there though. Let's just say clone, not heal. There we go. Looks good, right? Can't really tell. You can kind of tell, but for quick and dirty, it's good. Now, the real issue here is we have a very low contrast. It looks like the sun was glancing across the front of your element. One thing that can help here is lens hoods to kind of combat that. But in some shooting situations, there's really very little you can do. I'd like to see this a little bit brighter. I'd really like to see if we can add some contrast to make the cat stand out. I can't add too much. Let's bring the highlights down a little bit. Shadows. Yeah, see, this is tricky. So we're going to walk this line. Do I say that too much? Between adding contrast, but really kind of boosting the shadows so we have detail from the cat. Bring the whites down a little bit. And the blacks, as I said, you can double click. Let's double click. That's where it thinks. See, the blacks, that's too much. Even if that's the quote unquote correct spot for it to be kissing the left, I wouldn't pull it down that much. So somewhere right around here. But this is just kind of tough in this. Oh yeah, look at this too. So I'm noticing that it's noisy. We're up at ISO 2000 and you're at f11. You didn't need to be that high for this shot. Shutter speed, yes, you should be up somewhere around there to capture this cat because at times he moved a little bit faster and you want him to be sharp. But this could be as low as f7 or so, and that would have let you drop your ISO way, way lower and been a little bit less noisy. So Jamie, I see in chat you're saying you like the rays. Yeah, you know, they do offer how to make them stand out a little bit more. It's a good question. Let's see, if we come down to the yellows, can we boost that yellow area a little bit? Just trying to see. And we got them coming right across here is what Jamie is talking about, these light rays. And I wonder, you could do something like get a gradient like this. Let's see, really. And so I just made a radial gradient and I'm just going to turn it sideways. I'm going to grab it in the middle, move it down here and put it over, oops, not too much, put it over one of these rays, like this one I see right here. Going to invert it so it's, yeah, there we go, in the center, right? And add some yellow there, a little bit of exposure, feather it more. And what happens if we duplicate this a couple of times? This is stuff, I'll be honest with, I'm not very good at. But let's see if we can make a few of these rays feel a little bit more, have them stand out a little bit more. So I'm just right clicking and saying duplicate, and I'm not changing anything about them right now. And they end too early. Really, they should go all the way up. But let's say done for a second. There we go. What do we think? Is that why? Tim, you want a video on Lightroom shortcuts? That is a great idea, Tim. I'll put that together for the Patreon group. Roy, make a note of it. Thank you. So I think that's it. I'd work, maybe try and see these little things, clean these up. I honestly don't know if, well, I do like this. I do like this image a lot, especially now we started to do that a little bit of the light rays bringing out. But man, Jamie, it's a bit noisy for me to say this is something you should really spend a lot of time on. If you've got one with a little bit less noise, that has some of those rays, I might try it. But otherwise, I would just call it an experiment. Now I'm realizing we got a lot still, so we're going to move on. Pam went to Glacier with us. Grand Tetons National Park. That's where this is. And I remember this spot in this shot. And Pam, love the mountain. Wish the reflection wasn't hidden. And part of it is hidden by really sticky branches. And I don't mean sap sticky. I mean, they're just like sticks. They're just sticks. And they're really just kind of blocking this from us. I think a cooler shot here would be down through these bits down here and really kind of emphasizing the reflection and letting this get thrown out of focus. So again, here we are, 35 millimeters f/16. I would like to see a little bit more out of focus in the foreground to use that as a framing element for what's in the background. But real quick, let's look at fixing some stuff here. I'd bring the highlights down a little bit. I would bring the shadows down a little bit. You see, there's good detail everywhere. So, and let's do the double click, shift black, double click, shift white, just tiny little movements there. And then I'm not seeing well, yeah, we got a little bit more contrast. So I want a little more contrast in that mountain. I want it to stand out. And I might even bring the overall exposure down just a little. It was just bright enough that we're kind of losing some of these rich greens and blues and the color in the rocks. And then I probably, these days, I'm spending a lot of time, I'd probably paint with the brush. Remember, hold down Alt and you can hit reset. A little bit of more clarity, maybe a bit of dehaze, and a little more contrast, and blacks down a little bit more on the mountain itself. Let's see if we can make the mountain pop a little bit more. And I would have done that in the reflection too, but in this case, we just got too much stuff in the way of the reflection. Now, let's hit O to see, oh, my flow is really low. Not on flow, but just my flow. There we go. See that mountain coming out and standing out a little bit more. Yeah, I don't love it's a little on the blue side just because of the way light works, so I might warm it a tiny bit. Thanks, Pam. Always fun to travel with you. Jeff, ooh, where's this? Is this New York Central? Oh, New York Central Park. I've never seen this thing in New York Central Park. This looks like something you'd see on Disney's Jungle Ride or something. But I love these little hints of the buildings off in the distance. Oh, man, how much money did somebody have to pay you to swim in that water, though? That is some green goose poop water. Okay. I like this image a lot. We've got this kind of central focus here, and then our eye follows the water, sees the hint of that other building, and then the hints of the buildings up here. I like that a lot. I wonder if coming to the right a little bit, moving this building out here, that one should be able to stay. I'm imagining shifting in such a way that this comes out a little bit and that comes out to the left tiny bit. Yeah, it might be. And my point is that you might be able to get a little bit more of that reflection there. That's neat. But we don't really have much reflection there. So I might come down to, this is a D&G, might come down to effects. You know, you already vignetted it a bit. I might do it a bit more. Because I'm bothered by a little bit of the reflection. I think I like it either, you know, kind of an all or nothing. So you could also just kind of brush on a mask to just kind of, you know, darken this area in here a little bit, just so it doesn't stand out so much. Maybe soften it a little bit. And, I don't know, just drop the composition or what I do, exposure and contrast a little bit. Now, yeah, you know, the vignette feels fine down here. I like it. Up here now, it feels a little bit too heavy. So I might, if you find yourself working on a vignette and it's not working great for you, you can always, I mean, all it's really doing is kind of dropping the exposure in that area. See, up here now, this feels better. And so you can just kind of paint the vignette on yourself in the corners. And let's see, overall, so that was just kind of an example. I didn't do it long enough. Let's see, bump the exposure, composite contrast. These things look good. Are the whites over? Let's see, hold down shift, double click. Oh, it says so. It doesn't look like it though. Hit the J key, watching for the red. Let's see if it shows up anywhere. Oh yeah, so there it is, extreme. So I just brighten it just a tiny bit. Somewhere around there. And vibrance and saturation. Yeah, it's all quite nice. Don't think I have much else to suggest about this picture as far as editing goes. Maybe was there a little dehaze applied? A little bit. I might paint a little bit more on that building right there. And I might take this out with a clone stamp. Just because it's kind of hanging out there. And just, I like the all green. Finding a place where it works well. Oh, here we go, heal. It's terrible. So that might be a job for Photoshop. It's actually not too bad there. There it is. But I like just the hint of that building there and that building there. So hiding that little spot just kind of feels like a nicer story on around the corner. Nice. And I think there's a shot of just this building as well. You know, just thinking about just that part. Ben's got a riverside sunset. Letting the cat out. Just a minute. Okay. All right, so we still got our J key on. We can see our highlights are a little bit hot. Might bring it down a little bit. And maybe the white's down a tiny bit. And the black's up a tiny bit and the shadow's up a little bit more. There we go. Pretty minor. Nice tall picture. This is one of those, I like this a lot. Notice that we got, this just caught my eye. We have a tiny bit of tree creeping in up there. So I might bring that in a little bit there. And I think I'm gonna, let's go to that 8x10 and just kind of bring it up. Let's see. I'm trying to find a nice spot that gives us a little bit of that foreground road, puts the sun on the rule of thirds, and just not as much foreground. I think this is it here. This is very nice. I might take this tree out here so that it kind of seems like open blue sky from that point on, but that's pretty minor. And overall, Ben, I think this is a really nice shot. Roy's saying get a radial gradient like so, make it egg-shaped, put it where the sun's hitting the ground. And what would you do with it, Roy? Would you bump up the exposure a little bit? Kind of, oh, we got to invert the mask. Kind of make that stand out there, maybe a little more yellow. So we can really feel like we've got a ray of sun coming through. Am I understanding that right? Hope so. Looks good. Jeff, number 2, you spent some time in New York recently, didn't you? I think you had a good family trip there, if I remember seeing on Facebook. It's pretty nice. You've definitely worked on this a good bit with some radial gradients cooling down. It looks like some of the hotter bits. I think you've done a nice job there. Careful though, we got, yeah, highlights down to 57. I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at these lights just seem a touch gray. So I'd bring it back up a little bit just so they lose their kind of grayness, and maybe play around with warming it a tiny bit as well, just to kind of, again, battle that grayness. Now, foreground's a little dark, and I know this is a tricky situation. If you want to do it in one shot, get a Sony. Ha ha. Just kidding, Jeff. No, you can bring these shadows up a bit more. Let's see what happens when we drag a gradient over these and we do bring the shadows up a bit more in that area. Maybe even exposure up a little bit. Yeah. There you go. I like this. Just to give, it gives more depth. When it's so dark down there, we can kind of see stuff is going on, but I think it's a little bit stronger when we get that that in there. Now, the other thing you can do, let me get that gradient back. There he is. Is this it? Yeah. Bump the clarity up a little bit. And you can even do the dehaze a little. Let's bump a little bit more exposure. This is where you have to be careful, though. You never want the reflection to look totally fake, but just this here, it's pretty good. Now, f18, 17 millimeters, everything should be in focus, but I tell you, it looks like these foreground guys are just a tiny bit out of focus. So I would not go above f18, but this is when you start to think about where you should focus in your shot, and maybe focused a little bit. You probably focused on the city in the background, and probably if you had focused a little bit closer to you in the shot, the city would be just as in focus, and these guys would be a little bit sharper as well. This is a pretty cool shot. I wish we could do something about the reflection on these little gold. You know, they had to cap each one of them. It's so shiny. I might work on toning that down a little bit, but otherwise, I think this is a pretty cool shot. Was this a ferry going by or one of the riverboat things? It's very colorful there. Nice. All right, Daniel. Ooh. All right, chat room. What do you think I'm going to say first about this? Two things. Pretty darn minor. Overall, really nice. Yeah, you left the bottom darker on that last one, Jeffrey, because of those guys catching the light. They still were catching the light though, even when it was darker. Brightening it, I think, brings out the detail. You do get a little bit more reflection on there. All right, so here's what bugs me about this, and it's pretty minor. We got this tiny little bit of one popping in right here, one of those street lights. Quick fix, and it doesn't end. It just cuts off the top of the bridge. And so again, we can do this. What do we want to heal? No, we want to take it from over on this side, don't we? And this is tricky. Again, this would be a little bit better for Photoshop because we don't want that kind of blur. So just make it seem like it ends quicker. That's quick and dirty. I don't like that. But it gives you the idea of what this bugs me about that. Yeah. So you all noticed. And then, is it straight? It does feel straight. Look, we've got, well, it feels straight when you put up the grid lines there. So we've got that right there. But here, I think I would go back to my guided tool, and I would draw one straight down here and say, that is straight down the bridge. And then I would try drawing one across here, saying that is horizontal. And let's see what we end up with. I don't know if it's that big a deal. Let's see what it looks like crop wise now, because now we're hitting the side there, and that's bugging me, and that's too much to take out. Well, I'm getting a little bit better. Yeah. I think this is a little bit better. That's very close. Makes me nervous that close, but I do like we're coming right out of the corner now. Love colors. Similar to Jeff's, I might bring these shadows up a little bit more to see a little bit more detail in this side of the bridge. Again, what would you shoot with? Oh, sorry, you got content here. I hope I didn't miss anybody else's. I forgot about this. Looking for tips, suggesting regarding post-processing images like this as I'm not satisfied with the result. Can't quite get the colors and levels right. What about cropping? Would a 1-to-1 aspect ratio be better? All right. You know, I'm okay with a lot of that empty space over there because it's balanced so well by this very strong, very heavy, dark bridge. 1-to-1 might be a little bit too full of the bridge. Now, what if we did something like right around here? Let me look at this for a second. I feel like we have less sense of this bridge going off into the distance, even though we can't see really any more or less of it. I don't know. I like that. I like that more space. It doesn't need to be quite as much. I think the colors strike me as beautiful. If you wanted to, you could certainly bring a brush and kind of warm up some of this up here. It might feel a little bit dirtier up there than not. What else also? Tell me what you think. What if we took this down and we said, okay, we're just not going to get all of that bridge up there. We only get part of it. Let's look at this for a minute. I think that can work as well. And again, this is where I would get a brush, bring your exposure up, bring your shadows up, warm it up, and just get in here on this bridge and get some more of that detail out of there. Notice that mostly just the wires are lighting up because they're already. And if you hold down the Alt key, you can erase. But let's see what we got over here as well. It's quick and dirty for a second. See if there's some detail in this bridge. I'm being messy, but it gets tricky because then down here, do I say that a lot? Then down here, that's not that exciting of detail. Let's see if we find a sweet balance spot in between. Just for a second. So let's bring that exposure down a little bit, and the shadows down, just so there's a hint. See hints of detail in there? I might change my mind. I might say that I really like the dark silhouette because we're not doing a good job. I'm not doing a good job of bringing out the detail there. So, but I think the, Jeff, you like the larger crop. And Trilina, you don't. Daniel, you missed the top of the bridge. Okay. I think it can work either way, but my feelings aren't hurt that you all think that we need to have the top of the bridge. Because I do think it's a very cool architecture up there. And let's see what we got with that. That's what I was at. So we come back up a little bit and over. Now we're missing, you know what, I don't like that because we're missing too much of the reflection. Well, we can bring it out more. Like that frame of that reflection there. Let's do that plus just a little bit more. I do like this. I'm even okay with that right now at this point. I just would try to work up here a little bit and move it from kind of a dirty orange to a warmer orange. Stan, you went on a Seattle photo walk, and we've got this shot. Well, I'm going to straighten it up first off. And then I struggle with it a little bit because my question is, what's the subject here? And also, when do we decide if it's straight? Because it's a little more straight here. As the subject is kind of this open door and this place, and our proprietor back here, she's quite soft and a little hidden. What does this look like, black and white? She's a little hot too. Not like hot sexy. She might be, no judgment there one way or the other, but it's a little bright on her face is what I'm trying to say. So, oh, Daniel, I think that would be a good idea on that last shot, put a portrait and landscape. So I think this is a little bit better, still bothering me with its crookedness. This line right here, we know in our brains is straight, doors are built straight. So I really want that to feel very straight. There we go, that's better. This also might be a spot for the guided tool, be a little bit more. And then I think this would be great if she had been, what do you, F5, 1/60th of a second, 55 millimeter, I think you're working with a Sony. If she had been the focus here. And this stuff in the foreground could have been a little bit out of focus. And here she is, you know, at the counter of this little spot. But we can't quite fix her. Those brights are just a little too bright. But when we go black and white, I think it takes some of the confusing of the color away. Let's brighten the shadows a bit, and the white's a tiny bit, and black's down just a bit. I think we want to overall brighten that inside there a little bit more. We could even kind of cheat and use a gradient, radial gradient, invert. It's a little too much. And we could increase the feathering as well. Just kind of put it over her. There we go. See how nicely that fades out? And I didn't have to brush. It just kind of quickly boosted the exposure in this area there as well. She needs to be a little sharper, though. That's my main issue with this. Otherwise, I think it's kind of a cool shot. Stan, are we on to a third one of yours? We're going to skip that for now, but except for to say I've eaten here at this place, and it is fantastic. Biscuit bitch. My kids just call it Biscuit Female Dog. Nikki. Hey, I think Nikki's fairly new to the group. And this is a really nice shot. I like this a lot. This boat here in the marshland is very cool, kind of tied up, waiting for high tide or something. Some nice colors. Seems a little bit of out of focus here is throwing me because it actually seems a little bit more out of focus here than it does right down here. We've got this kind of old style rowboat here. Bye, Jamie. But in the background, we've got these giant mansions, and I kind of don't want to see those. So let's see what happens if we shrink this down and say, gosh, even 16 by 9. Let's go for like a panorama feeling, a very wide shot. Too much? Let's see what this looks like for a second. We've got a hint of the water where it belongs in the background. It's just too sharp. It's too much though, isn't it? I think this could be better, and I would kind of work on cloning these out. Well, that was good. So that we just have, that was really quick and dirty. Again, Photoshop would do a better job, but look at that. Now we have this kind of bucolic scene, this beautiful place, boat waiting to go into the water, and I like this. I would increase the contrast a little bit. I would probably do a little bit of extra dehaze to kind of bring that background out a little bit. And I might do, we're working on a JPEG here, but I might do more saturation than I would normally do. Ooh, careful, careful. Because there weren't a lot of bright colors in this to begin with. And I'm just bumping that saturation just a little bit, kind of brings out those colors. And I think this is really nice. Daniel, how many have we done of yours? Just one? I guess it's just because you got Instagram ones too. This is beautiful. Really, really nice shot. It's very straight. Love these reflection lines and kind of this, it feels a little ambiguous about where the water line is on these. We just have somewhere a reflection starts, somewhere the actual pier or pole starts, and that's cool. Really nice. I don't think that I would boost the shadows to bring out detail in those. I think they work really well as silhouettes. So we're going to keep that down there like that. I would probably take this guy out and it's a little bit of reflection there. It just grabs the eye and it's not an interesting thing to look at. Your subject is this kind of nice silhouette stuff right here. Let's see how it did. Pretty good. I would then, so whenever you do this, see now you have this two exactly repeating bits. I would then fix this one from someplace else over here or someplace further away. But this is great. Did you leave me any notes specifically in this that you want to know? Oh yeah, you just said in chat room. I saw that before. What should I do to make this image really pop? To me, it feels too flat. Any ideas? Print it on metal. I mean, I think it pops. Let's see. You want to pop more. You've got the clarity up to 30 already. I might try to bring up the shadows down here just a little bit. Ooh, that's kind of cool, that color too. So just a little bit brighten that area there. We don't need to do that so much. And I think it's fading out nicely still. So it's not affecting the piers themselves. That looks good. And then I am noticing, have you edited? It looks like we have some of them have just a hint of halo around them. So I'd be careful about that and see if you can see that little bit of fuzz and work on that. Roy says, boost the red channel via the tone curve. So we've got the tone curve. Roy, tell me how do you say, how to make it a tone curve that you're working on the colors? I don't know how to do that. None of these are options. Boost the red channel via the tone curve. That's, oh, channel, red. Now boost it. Which way is boosted? Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. I don't think that's what you meant, Roy. Am I zoomed in? Yeah, I'm zoomed in a little bit. So then you can turn these individuals off and on right there. That was very extreme, but that definitely is an option. Yeah. And then I might also, the other thing that I would do is bring this gradient down from the top and boost the clarity and a little bit more dehaze in the sky as well to make that sky pop out. Yeah, so you bring that up somewhere along there. And that's also something you can do in the camera calibration as well. You can boost the reds, both saturation and primary, or you can also just switch it to something like camera landscape. Wow, way too much up there now. So you can see the very quickly, what was it, camera standard, you can overdo it. And let's turn it to a slight, Roy's saying slight S curve. Is that the right way? Or would it go like that way and that way? Which way is an S? That way. That's an S. Oops. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Just that halo. Watch those. And now with my editing, we brought out a little bit of extra green in there we want to watch out for. Before and after, yes. Here is, give it like 30 seconds for my slow computer. Before. After. Now, that's not a good after. We've overdone it. I've overdone it. I don't know why I say we whenever things are bad. And when they're good, I say I. I don't remember what this camera calibration was on. Let's go back to this point, I think was good. I like that a lot. And then now let's go back to that tone curve and make it a little bit more S-y. Yeah, careful. Got that blue. We don't want that blue. This blue at the top and the bottom now is looking unnatural to me. So you want to be careful about that. But otherwise, I think it's pretty nice. Now we got Kayla Kate's shot. And hey, this is beautiful. This is a really beautiful spot. I wonder, I always feels a little straighter to me right here. That's very minor. This is a nice shot. Do I have much suggestions for this? I don't think so. Maybe you're at f16 in 1 second. That says to me that you probably went as long as you could at the widest aperture, or sorry, the smallest aperture you could. I was wondering about cropping this. I find the trees at the top distracting. Should I crop most of them out or just leaving a little bit? Oh, I like them. I think it's a nice top third, sets this beautiful forest scene. Bottom 2/3, we follow the stream and stuff down. The only thing that I might say is this stick right here could get cloned out. That stick being a big tree trunk in the back. We got power lines back there too, huh? Wow, those are hard to see otherwise. So I might clone over that. And this guy here is a little tricky. So, all right, what happens if we take some of that out a little bit? What if we go to our 8 by 10? So we have a little bit of less of that. I don't want to take it out completely though. Hey, I think that's better. Yep. And then just clone out just that bit of trunk we see there. And maybe that. It's quite nice. If you, now you know the trick, if you have multiple shots from this exact tripod setup, you can stack them and get slightly softer water as well. I also often like to paint on the water. Oh, you've done it already. What have you done? You've bumped up the clarity, you've bumped up the dehaze. I often will also bring the saturation down on, let me see where you've painted at. Everywhere you've done it. So I would take it out of this section here to let that color shine through, but then that really lets the white be white and feel very kind of clear and crisp. So let's get the O off of that and see how we look, just bringing that saturation down. Let's be too much for a second. So that's too much, but that was completely taking all color out of the water. Where were we back here? You can see that just gets a little bit of hints here and there, green and kind of in the top left, and you just bring it down and that all goes away. You could actually, what I sometimes do is I bring the clarity down of parts of the water. So this kind of emphasizes, see, I like this a little bit more. And then I would, let's go to the O again, hold down the Alt, and I would really remove it from the rocks and then come back with another brush and paint clarity onto the rocks to really emphasize. One of the things that I love about shots like this is that contrast of soft, pillowy, Steve Skurich calls it, water versus these hard, angular, sharp looking rocks. So I'd spend some time in there kind of emphasizing with a clarity brush, declarifying the water and clarifying the rocks. So let's just do that for a second. So new brush now, and let's keep our exposure. Let's clarity up, and let's just paint in here a little bit, and right here, and here, and here, and here, and here for a second. Take that O off. And sometimes a little dehaze, bring the blacks down a little bit. And I think that this is up in the Adirondacks, and I think that's what we got. So now let's do a little brushing off, brushing on. It's pretty minor, but I do think that helps. And then I would actually, I'd get in here and saturate this water a tiny bit more, bring out that hint of blue. People love that. All right. Hey, these are some great shots today. Thanks, everybody, for putting your work out there. I hope what I had to say about it was helpful and a little bit of editing. And that brings us to the end of the show, and I'm good because my throat feels done. That was a lot of talking. This was a long show, but I hadn't seen you in a while. So thanks. Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for spending your Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, or whenever you happen to watch the show with me. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you hanging around and making this community as awesome as it is. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.